Hey everybody, this is Brad and
Shane.
from the Intentionally Positive podcast. It's got a nice ring to it. I think we might stick with it. What do you think, Shane?
I think that's the one.
All right,
I think that's the one, Brad.
sounds good to me. So this is our second episode. We posted our first episode yesterday. Got some pretty positive feedback. I think we got maybe 32 listens. We're totally pumped. We're all excited, so we're on a roll. So we're gonna keep going with this. Hopefully, you guys, start giving us some more feedback, letting us know what you want to hear, and all that sort of fun stuff. So I think the topic today, Shane, is going to be what, morning routines.
Yeah,
I think that's what we came up
one
with.
to talk about is morning routines.
Okay. Well, so you want to jump into your morning routine, Shane?
Yeah. So I think morning routines for a long time were not very a big deal for me. My morning routine consisted of waking up, just putting my contacts in first thing because my glasses are always broken. So the first thing I do is put in my contacts, get changed, and then as I'm heading down to eat breakfast, I'm looking at my phone, particularly at the news, and it was just one of the worst ways to kind of start my day after I really
you do this now, or this is what you used to do?
That's what I used to do.
Okay.
It was a really unproductive way to start my day because the first thing I'm seeing is just how the world is going to hell, and it pretty much would set the tone for the rest of my day. So I started I started doing a lot of research into what do other really successful people do in their mornings and during the days, and the routine I've kind of stumbled upon. We can get more in depth into it. Is I wake up and the first thing I do is I put my clothes on and my tennis shoes, and I'm walking on the street, rain or shine. I don't even care what the weather is, even if it's pouring down rain. I'll just grab an umbrella, but I will be outside walking. So that's the first thing I do, just to kind of get my body moving and waking up. And actually, but even before I do that, I drink a big glass of water just to kind of get my digestive system waking up, my metabolism kicked off. From there, what I do is I try to think about, I try to find 3 things I'm incredibly grateful for. It doesn't matter what they are. Sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're really small. But the idea, it just helps me be more aware of the things that are good in my life and the things I'm excited about. And I think of those things, I really live them in my head like I'm doing them in the moment. And it just, I don't know, it just gets me excited. From there, there's a second phase where I start just thinking about my body, and I'm a religious person. I firmly believe in God, and so it's the second phase that I allow myself to kind of connect with Him and ask for the healing of my body and the healing of my mind, my emotions, anything that seems to be off or could be improved. And from there, I ask for strength for my the aspects and qualities of myself that are good. That I consider my best parts, and as I'm asking this, even if you don't have a belief in God, whether it's God, or you call it the universe or life, I mean, it really doesn't matter. But the point is, it's just recognizing that this life, we didn't give it to ourselves, we got it from somewhere. So to the source that gave it, be just ask for replenishment, ask for healing and completeness, and believe that you've received it. So that just kind of puts your mind in a happy healing time. And then I just try to take that energy I've built up and give it to other people. It cultivates a sense of unity with those around me, and it just makes me see the good in people more than recognizing how where all the shortcomings of people are and things like that. And from that point, my third phase, and I'll kind of wrap it up here. Third phase is I envision my goals, my goals and my dreams, and allow myself to be excited about them. And the same thing I did before, like in my gratitude phase, is I allow myself to live those experiences as best I can. I imagine what the smells are, what the physical sensation is on my hands, like any tastes around sounds. I just make it a very vivid experience, and I feel it so strongly. It's like I feel like I've already received that goal, and what that does is it just makes me so excited for the day. And I tend to notice more opportunities, and it just seems like more good things happen to me. At least I'm more aware of the good things than the bad things. So I mean that's kind of my routine. What do you do in the mornings?
Yeah, my routine has changed over the years. I'm kind of new to this kind of morning routine, or even calling it a morning routine. I used to work downtown, and it took about an hour and a half to get downtown. Traffic was just absolutely terrible. So, I don't know, probably about 15, 20 years ago, I guess I had a morning routine. And that basically was getting up, taking a shower, throwing on some clothes, and getting in the car and rushing to the interstate to try to beat all the traffic.
Yep. Yeah.
So I actually I work closer to home now. So my morning routine kind of fell off. And so basically I became more of a late riser. Would probably come into work around, 9 or 10, go to bed like around like 2 or 3 in the morning. And so I did that for a handful of years. And so recently, like the last, 6 months or so, I've tried to start changing up that routine a little bit. And most of that has been in the last, month or so. So I'm trying to shift everything back to being a morning person, because I do think that there is a lot of opportunity very early in the morning where no one else is awake, no one else is around, and you can just accomplish things. You have all this time to yourself. So what I've been doing is I've been getting up around 4:30 in the morning. So basically, I pack a gym bag the previous night. I put all of my gym wear out, and I jump up, I put my contacts on, brush my teeth, throw on some deodorant, throw in my gym clothes, grab my bag, and then I'm out the door. I may throw a little bit of like pre-workout powder in there or whatever, and basically I just hit the gym. And I do the elliptical, run about 5 miles every morning, burn like 600, 700, 800 calories. I do all that in about 60 minutes. So about that time, it's about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then after that, what I do is I go into the sauna, and then I sit into the sauna for about 15 minutes. And so for, a few weeks, that's all that I was doing, listening to podcasts. But what I've been doing here lately is the sauna usually doesn't really have anyone in it that early in the morning. So I've been doing like meditation routines, right? So trying to figure out like what that routine is all about and what that looks like. Trying to use different applications. I've used the meditation app. I've used, I think it's called Headspace app.
Have you heard of Vana?
No, I haven't heard of that
one. Yeah,
no.
That's a great one. We can talk about that one more later. That's made by this guy named Vishen Lakhiani.
Okay.
And he has a fantastic kind of visualization meditation
Gotcha.
that I've used too. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
so.
Cool. So what I've been doing is just trying to figure out my meditation routine. I've done some of the Tony Robbins kind of primer, kind of deep breathing, kind of what Shane was talking about. Focusing on 3 things that you're grateful for, and then 3 things that you want to be successful, and 3 things that you want to accomplish. I just started that a couple days ago, and I really like that. There's something about I don't know. I found it on YouTube or whatever, but basically, it's really nice meditation music, and it's Tony Robbins' raspy voice explaining to you how you should meditate. And there's just something about that raspy voice that I can't get enough of. So it's been really helpful over the last few days. So that's kind of my morning routine. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so there's so many options out there. Like, have you studied or looked into other people, like really successful people's routines at all, or like what they do? There's so much out there.
Yeah, being a recent discoverer of Tony Robbins, I've kind of dove into some of the things that he does, but I know you know a lot about what others do. So
yeah, there's been a lot of people I've looked into to kind of develop routines. There's but a guy I really really like. I mentioned him on the last episode. Was this guy named Earl Nightingale. See, that guy has the raspy voice of kings. I think that's where Tony Robbins based his voice off of. Because I mean, it's like listening to gravel, but it's just incredibly soothing. But a tape that absolutely transformed my life, and I started doing this years ago. Is this 30-day challenge, and essentially what it is it boils down to the premise that our lives and the our bank account, the condition of our house, like the quality of friendships that we have, just everything in our experience is like an unmerciful mirror that's reflecting basically our interior life, right? Our interior thoughts. If your thoughts are the basically the root and the foundation of all of our behaviors and actions and words, the premise is if you can adjust the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your life will necessarily improve, because your actions will be more from a positive place. You'll start having conversations with people you probably haven't before, or at least the conversations that you normally have will just go differently, and your life just kind of works out differently. But he starts from that premise, and then he talks about like the money side of it. Excuse me. And he starts talking about how your your financial situation, and you earn you earn money that's in direct proportion to the quality of your service. So the idea is for 30 days, work on increasing the quality of your thoughts and render more service, and watch how it transforms your life. So that's one thing that kind of started it for me. So I discovered this, like Brad was saying, Tony Robbins has this morning priming exercise, which is a lot of the basis for kind of like what I was saying before, kind of putting you in that gratitude type state. But then that would kind of begin my day and put me in a positive attitude. But this Earl Nightingale 30-day challenge, and if you haven't heard it, you should look it up. It's called The Strangest Secret in the World, and it's absolutely amazing.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because one thing that I didn't mention earlier is there's two other things that I do in my morning routine.
Okay. Yeah.
Number one is I drink 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. I have to do it with water.
I've heard people. So what does that do?
So basically, what that does is that basically, number one, I've heard that it helps with testosterone. And then number 2, it helps pull the toxins out of your organs. And I've been doing it for probably about 2 or 3 months now, and it's really interesting. I do think that it helps. It's small, so it's not really noticeable. I think it takes about 30 days for you to start noticing anything, but it's basically just a small kind of noticeable thing that's happening in your body. But the thing that I wanted to touch on was a second thing that I do. You mentioned this, and I'm a religious person as well, and I used to pray a lot. Used to have a pretty good walk with Christ. The last handful of years hasn't been the same. Just have getting tied up into work and all this other stuff. But one thing that I've gotten back to is getting more into the Bible and reading Bible verses. And then, like you, also having prayer every morning.
Yep.
And basically asking for strength and asking for basically my day to be a good day, essentially. and to basically just hand that day or this day over to the Lord. And what I will say is that it has been a extreme noticeable difference, to your point that you made earlier.
So what have you found like the differences have been?
Well, just being able to talk to people and not having like anxiety or not having fear or anything like that, and just handling myself better, knowing when to bite my tongue when somebody's trying to bait me, those sorts of things, and just having that in the morning, it reminds me throughout the day to be thankful, and give thanks to the Lord, and say little prayers here and there. So it's kind of a sanity thing, that's really helping. And so it just, from a positive outlook, it's helping me stay positive. And every time I see, myself going negative or, being baited into an argument or a discussion on politics or whatever, I'm less pulled into those types of things now, because I don't want to be involved in those sorts of things. I don't want to have those sorts of discussions. Those discussions are meant to pull us down and meant to pull us away from like actual beneficial things that we should be focused on throughout the day. You mentioned that, and it reminded me that that's something that I've started over the last month, and it's been really beneficial. And out of everything that I've been doing the most, I think that's one of the biggest things that's helped me kind of get into this morning routine and just be a better person throughout the day. Well,
I think it's a great point, and I'll get back to the Earl Nightingale stuff in a second. But I think talking about gratitude is a really important point. It is a really important aspect to incorporate in your day. And I was thinking about why. Why do I need to start my day off being grateful? And I don't know how many of you listeners out there are in the same boat, but so I have 3 children. My oldest is almost 4, and so she talks a lot, and she's starting to develop her own personality and things like that. And I don't know what it is when she's sweet, right? And when she just says, "Oh, thank you, Daddy," even like when I give her a banana or something just silly. And I can tell she's really grateful for it. It makes me, as a father, more inclined to find things to give her that she can be grateful for, to make her happy. When I see that she's just in a great mood, and just because of something so little, it makes me want to give her bigger things and more things. And I think there's a definite correlation with how God interacts with us. If you're just a grateful person, if you notice like the little things that come into your life all the time, especially the coincidences of your life, right? It's like those are things that you didn't make happen. It's life happening for you. I think if we open our eyes to see those situations and be grateful for them, I don't know about you, Brad, but like I've noticed in my own life, those crazy coincidences that lead to amazing things, I just feel like their frequency is like, exponentially increased. So for me, that's why I think gratitude's so important.
So to me, it's awareness, right? It's being aware, and whether you believe in God or whether you believe in the universe or whether you believe in in intelligent meaning. To kind of Shane's point earlier, it's you're thinking beyond yourself, right? You're becoming aware of your surroundings, and you're looking at things that typically maybe you wouldn't look at, like. You're appreciating things like flowers and grass, and you're beginning to appreciate things because you can see things on a much larger scale. And so when you can do that, I think it humbles us a lot, and then humbling and then figuring out how to serve and provide for others, I think is a very humbling experience. And I think that's kind of part of me kind of getting back into that routine. Is just understanding how small we really are in the universe, but how big the universe is and how much there is to go out there and grab. How much opportunity that there really is, and the only people that's holding us back, or the only person that's holding us back, is who we look at in the mirror.
Absolutely.
And so the more and more that we can realize that we are much larger than what we think we are, then I think the more that helps with our self confidence, and just helps with us just being who we should be,
Sure.
day in and day out.
Absolutely. Yes, I think that gratitude is such a crucial element to any morning routine. And but like, and going back to kind of what Earl Nightingale was saying, so we talked about being grateful. We talked about thinking about our primary goals and making sure that stays in the forefront of our minds. Then we've talked about, there are different ways of prepping our body, right? There's different ways of getting into an awakened state. Some people do that through exercise. There's so many really successful people. The first thing they do is exercise. Meditation is a really big part of that, and I think we both incorporate that into our routine as well. But just like recognizing who we are in the grand scheme and where we come from and where we're going, and ultimately what's important. And I think the third phase, at least for me, is thinking about, okay, kind of set myself up. So what are the actions I can take this day right now that is going to move me towards like these goals that I've set for myself?
Yeah, that's a big important thing, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the things that Earl Nightingale challenges in this 30-day exercise is so you write, like, you can take a piece of paper, right? You can write your goals on top of said paper. And the more absurd the goal is, like ridiculous goals, like you should be setting goals that you should be kind of thinking, at least this is my opinion, how I don't have any idea how I would ever get to that point. That's how I think you've got something really good or worth chasing. Because the subconscious mind is amazing. You will get there somehow, but you write down that goal on the top of the piece of paper. And then what you do, is take a few minutes, 20 minutes. If you can spend an hour, even 5 days a week doing this, it would be fantastic. But what you do is, with that goal at the top of the paper, is write down what are things I can do in my current situation, in my current work situation, where I can add more value to my company, to myself, for my business. What can I do that will add more value? And the way we add value is by serving. So you put yourself in a mentality of, what can I do to serve, meet needs that people have, that can increase my income. Sometimes it's going to be like really small things that you can do. Other times it'll be really big ideas. But the point is, most of your ideas will probably end up being crap. Like it just won't be worth anything. However, we have this unbelievable storehouse of knowledge, like within each of us, that we don't even realize that we could tap into. It's like an unmined gold mine, like inside us. That's what Earl Nightingale says. And so eventually, if you kind of stick with this habit of writing down what can you do to provide more value to the company you're with, your business, the world in general, eventually you're going to get some ideas that are worth investigating and testing. Every now and then you're going to come up with one that could really be something. And then once in a blue moon, even if it's one a year, you will come up with some idea that will generate a fortune. So it's worth taking the time in a morning routine to ask yourself, what can I do today where I can serve and increase my value? And then now you have a game plan, right? Now you're focused. Now you have something to look forward to during the day. You're opening your eyes for possibilities, for opportunities that can help you get to that goal. So that's another thing I've tried to incorporate as well that has been really helpful for me.
Gotcha. So let's dive into that a little bit. So how do you come up with some of these things? Like how do you figure out like how I can serve the company better? Yeah. Or how do you come up like what are those things that you think through in order to come up with something like that?
That's a great question. At first, what I found is like it's easy. Like the first couple of days, it's not hard to come up with 10 ideas, that can make you add value, because most likely you've been thinking of them already in some capacity. Like we had these ideas, so you write them down. But then day 3, or 4, is when I feel, in my experience, it really starts to get tough, because you have to think like, the idea is not to repeat yourself with the idea. Now you can like expand on an idea, but the idea is to like come up with something new every day. So it forces you to think of every aspect of your company. Like, so I'm a software engineer. I start thinking of like new technologies, but then it even gets to the point where I start seeing like, okay, I start noticing like the furniture we sit in, and I start noticing like, how could you manufacture furniture, or how can you make this furniture better, or like the snack machine, how can you? So you start thinking of crazy things. Have you ever tried something like that?
Yeah. So I have, yeah. So it's not just about like what I do for the company. How can I add more value? It's just how do we make anything in the company more valuable, and that can be more ergonomic, furniture. That could be more collaboration space. It could be a whole multitude of things. It could be brand new bathrooms or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Okay, all right. So that kind of helps clarify things for me, because I was thinking, same with me. I mean, I think of these things daily. I mean, that's kind of my job.
Yeah.
So it being my job, and then trying to come up with something even more than what my job currently is, seems quite daunting, because I'm already trying to solve every problem around here already. So yeah, that's interesting.
Well, and I can't remember where I heard it, but the other day I heard something that kind of blew my mind as far as thinking of ways that you can find opportunities and find ways to make money and create value for people. I would just try to think of what's something I could do, right? And that's like, it's like looking at a blank canvas before you start painting. It's like, what do I even do? What's the first mark I make?
Right.
But I heard a really interesting strategy that has like tenfold helped me come up with ideas better. Again, a lot of them are still crap, but I can still come up with ideas though. But the idea is to, rather than think of what you can do, try to ask yourself, what are 3 problems I've experienced in the last day? Write down those problems. And then once you've come up with 3 problems that you see, that you experience, like they're in your awareness, try to come up with 1 or 2, if possible. You ask yourself the question, what are some problems that I deal with on a regular basis that I've just accepted as being something that, I can't do anything about? And for me, it's completely opened my mind to a new way of thinking. And again, I can't remember who I heard this from. I'll try to remember and maybe put it in the notes of the video.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I mean, I think the same thing too. I've tried to, with technology, iPhones, iPads, computers. I used to write everything down as a kid. I mean, even when I was in my 20s, maybe even early 30s, I've got notebooks of things where I've written down like my vision, my goals, and all that kind of stuff. But again, with technology, you move away from paper and pen and you try to move to technology. It's just not the same, even though it's much easier.
I agree.
And so that's what it's kind of recommended, to basically buy like a little waiter's tablet, and carry that around with you with a pen everywhere you go. So when, you are having these issues, so if I'm driving down the road and, something happens and I'm like, what in the world happened? What I'm saying? It's typically like right then in that moment, you're like, if this would have been different, then this wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be angry now. I wouldn't be frustrated now. And that's what they say. You should basically, maybe not while you're driving down the road, but pull over or whatever and basically write down what your solution to that problem is.
Exactly.
And if you do that throughout the day, you'll basically build up a huge list of solutions to problems. It's just, we just don't do that anymore, So I've tried to get more into the habit of doing that on my iPad, but it's been difficult because it's technology. Trying to do it on my iPhone, it's difficult because it's technology. You're driving down the road typing. I know pulling out a pen and a paper would be even as difficult. But that's very interesting that you say that. Because there's been plenty of times where, I've been somewhere without a way to write anything down. and I've said, hey, that would be a great solution to a problem, to try to remember it to 2-3 hours later when I'm in front of my computer or I've got a pen and pad trying to remember what in the world I told myself, and I can't remember it for the world. So yeah, that's that's another thing of taking something negative that may happen in your life and spinning it around into maybe a more positive thing. You're coming up with a solution for something that happened in your life during that day, and who knows, you may be able to monetize on it.
And one of the last things I'll say about that I think is important, that I needed to hear myself, and if anyone out there is wanting to try this, it's important to remember that if you are having a particular problem, odds are millions of people are having the exact same issue.
Right.
So it's don't feel like, hey, this company's already solved it. It's like, no, you are having the problem right now.
Exactly.
So why don't you have their product? So you can come up with another version of something. So I would just kind of advise against discouragement or feeling like that you are unique in your issues.
Just go for it, or what do they say? Just do it.
Yeah,
right? Just do it.
There's some brand that came up with that.
I don't know who that is. I can't remember either. All right, cool. So we're at the 30-minute mark, and we're trying to keep these to around 30 minutes so we can provide these for you guys every day. So we'll post this. Give us your feedback. Let us know how you like them. And
we want to hear about your routines as well. What works for you in the morning to make your day productive and make you happy and moving towards your goals? We want to hear it.
Exactly. And I think Shane mentioned in the previous podcast that he's a musician. So he's going to be working on a intro and an outro for us. So we can liven this thing up a little bit. So anyway, appreciate everybody joining us again today, and we will do our best to see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.